Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, for the last time of Jeffuary 2023,
Thank God.
White the Killer. So White the Killer is by Anonymous, in that the user who posted it on the Just the Kittens wiki is just a series of numbers, like a VPN or something.
I mean, that might be their actual username.
It might be. Oh, that is like their username. Like when you go to their username, like their user page and stuff. That's just what it comes up as.
You just don't feel like saying a bunch of random numbers.
Yeah, and so yeah. Or it could be that they're in another country and they're using a VPN to get to access this website and stuff. But who can say?
Probably them.
Yeah,
they could say.
Yeah, if you're out there.
95 to 35, 129.163.
Come find us. No. Yeah. So you can check this out technically on the Just the Kittens wiki.
You
what?
Can. What do you mean technically?
I mean, if you really want to check this out before we go to our into our episode, you can check it out at Just the Kittens wiki, otherwise known as the Jeff the Killer wiki, or jtk.wiki. .fandom.com.
That's wiki.com.
Actually, it's jtk.fandom.com/wiki/white the killer or /white_the_killer. And White the Killer in that domain name has capitalized like the first letter. So
I don't know if capitalization matters in URLs, but
maybe not. We really are. There's a reason. I'm not recommending this story. It's kind of being a theme this month.
Yeah, I'm also not recommending this story.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend it.
Okay.
But you never know. When we talk about this, we may find something that we like enough to sway that a little.
Give it a minor partial. Maybe.
Hey, man, you never know. By the time we get through this, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I like this story.
I'm going to be very shocked if that happens.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah. Indeed we shall. So let's kick it off with the rundown. So our narrator is a 14-year-old girl who goes by White, a name for some reason given to her by her friends, despite not being pale-skinned or white-haired or anything that might give her that nickname. Great. She wakes up one morning and hangs out with her friends in town. Her friends are Emily and Jack. Jack is kind of weird. At some point in their day, they go to a museum of torture in town, and they spend so much time checking out the exhibits that closing time happens. She's told to head out ahead of her friends, who seem to be really interested in the torture devices on display. While on her way out, it passes the closing time, and she gets lost inside the museum. While calling for her friends in the dark building, seeing a tall form moving outside the windows, she comes across Jack, who has killed Emily on a torture device and eaten her heart. White is attacked by Jack, who is wielding a knife. While initially shocked, White gets very angry and lashes out, eventually getting Jack's knife and carving out Jack's eyes.
Removing his eyes.
Yeah, removing his eyes. Carving out, removing, the same kind of thing when you're using a knife. She then escapes by defenestrating herself out the window, and as she runs home, she sees the tall figure or entity outside the building of the museum, putting its arm through the window she just defenestrated from. She gets home to find her parents, or what we assume to be her parents, in a bloody mess in the fridge, like organs and blood all over, like just kind of inside the fridge. and a letter addressed to her by the now eyeless Jack. As she reads this and wonders how Jack beat her home to kill her parents, the tall being puts its hand through a nearby window, so White gets a knife and stabs it, and there is an unimaginable scream from the tall figure beyond. Then Jack appears behind her and attacks, getting a hold of White and carving into her face, around her mouth and eyes, like creating kind of like, again, that the Glasgow smile, or like that kind of like Joker smile a little bit, and also cutting around her eyes. White escapes and runs to the bathroom and locks it and checks in the window, or checks in the mirror, seeing the horror of her new scarred, bloodied-eyed visage. Like her eyes are like crying, but there's also blood mingled in, so like her eyes are bloodshot, and like her pupils are like bloody and red. So she's like crying blood almost, it looks like.
What was that song that was like in the blood and the blood and the blood?
It's
Is that from that Outriders trailer or something?
yeah, it's by, I actually have it on my phone.
I'm not surprised.
It's Blood in the River, by Zeal and Ardor. Yeah. So yeah, and honestly, she's become one of those mid to early 2000s, or like I guess mid to late 2000s, creepypasta killer, or like killer characters where like their eyes are just blood red and they cry blood, and then they have a knife and they're like a preteen and they stab people and kill them, kind of like in the same vein as like Jeff the Killer or other like
this, like it's completely something that we're not aware of.
I know, fair. I'm putting it in for anybody listening about this.
I guess so.
It's
episode 4 of Jeffuary. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trope in creepypastas that she has become. And as she's staring on her face like this in the mirror, she is overwhelmed with madness. She goes out and attacks Eyeless Jack, taunting him with his own eyeballs, which he apparently was still carrying this whole time. And eventually the fighting is stopped when Slenderman, the tall entity, appears and takes them away. The two people, not the eyes. That
Clarify that.
Yeah. White wakes up in the woods where there are other kids like her, and they are Slenderman's proxies. And White spends some time killing for Slenderman as one of his masked proxies. So they all have masks and such as they go out doing Slenderman's killing and bidding. She meets some people like Toby, who of course is in love with her, but she just wants to escape. So she removes her proxy mask and flees off into the woods. It's here that she meets Jeff the Killer, and the two become killer friends. Literally, they become friends who kill together. So, just a little bit of chilling and killing.
Great.
Now hunted by Eyeless Jack and Slenderman and his proxies, she's out there waiting for her chance to kill Eyeless Jack, among other victims too, I guess. Finn.
Does it say that she was planning on killing more people? I thought it was just Eyeless Jack.
I added that to infer that like she's probably killing other people because she's hanging out with Jeff the Killer. So she probably kills other people while also waiting for her chance to kill Eyeless Jack.
Yes.
So that was the rundown. I suppose we should move on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisition because we have to.
Wow. Are you okay, Gunther?
I gotta open this up with a thing. This story is 3 pages long when you pull it into Google Docs. My Grammar Inquisition is more than double that.
It's fine.
I think it was like every other sentence I had to pull the quote and leave a comment about the grammar. So this is the Grammar Inquisition with a happy helping of actual thoughts mixed in, because I wasn't going to copy again a quote for the actual thoughts. So if there's an actual thought that I had while there was for a quote that was also a Grammar Inquisition, I'm going to include the actual thought with my Grammar Inquisition comments.
Okay.
So
we also chime in with anything that we're going to be
absolutely, please, so that we can try and like streamline this as best we can. So I'm going to start with this one here. I was a sociable and solar girl. I lived quietly in one of houses of the district with my parents, my older sister, and brother. So for this one, pretty simple. I think it's missing the. So it's like I lived quietly in one of the houses of the district with my parents, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the next one. I was stretching my body in the bed. Oh, yep.
She said she's a sociable and solar.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, a term. Although I didn't look it up, but I think that's actually a term. I thought it was a term. Like I thought it was like a term, like a. I thought it was a term. Oh, here we go. Solar girl meaning. Let's look that up. See what that is. Solar powered girl is on Urban Dictionary. The type of jaw-droppingly attractive girl you see on a hot day when the sun comes out. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. That's kind of what I figured it was, honestly. Like I thought it was like basically like a California girl or something of that like. Like the Valley girl.
To like call yourself a. Would it be kind of narcissistic or whatever to call yourself a solar girl? Because it sounds like it's something that.
I think, like, yeah, I think it's either like it's probably very narcissistic, but it might also be like they might have chosen it because like solar as in like she's a sociable and like solar girl, so like for some reason I thought it was like that was like again a code or a slang for like an energetic and peppy girl.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's
fair enough.
But yeah, I'll move on to the next one here. I was stretching my body in the bed when I saw that I was late. So shouldn't it be I was stretching my body in my bed rather than the bed? I don't know. Might be a nitpick.
Maybe, but for me, I feel like the fact that it says my body sounds kind of weird. It would just be stretching. Like I was stretching in my bed. When you
Yeah,
say,
that's true.
My body in the bed, it's kind of something she's like hooked up to like some torture device to like draw and quarter her or something.
Yeah, or she's got body dysmorphia. Like she doesn't associate her body with herself all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an actual thing.
I'm sure it is, but I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Or it's a typo.
All right, moving on to the next one. So I woke up and I prepared fast, wearing first clothes that I had in my hand. Wearing the first clothes that I had in my hand. Also, you just have them in your hand? Were you just like holding onto them while you were like in bed sleeping?
I think what it means is like
or on hand maybe.
No, it should be like the first clothes that I could get my hands on. So
yeah, that's true.
Order drawers, grab the first things and so yeah, that needs to be reworded even more than just the.
Yeah, I would say like either like how you did it or like just get rid of like some parts of that. So it's like wearing the first clothes that I had on hand, like because that's a turn of phrase for like in your vicinity. So, but the next one here I have. After a few time, I went out of my house wearing black shoes and coolant, shorts, and a gray vest. So should it be after some time instead of after few time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I learned a new word today, which is surprising because I have two sisters. Collant is another word for leotards or tights.
I also learned that.
Mhm.
Wow.
So,
See, this story is educational.
yeah, that's what it is. Then the next one here. I ran until get the crossing of two streets near my house, where I met my two best friends, Emily and ... Jack. So, dear Lord, I am not even done 2 paragraphs. That's literally in my comments. Of this story. Like the first 2 paragraphs, I have just gotten to the first 2 paragraphs of the story. So I think it should be I ran until getting to the crossing of 2 streets near my house. And then also a space I think is needed between the semicolon and Emily, which I know it's hard for me to like pronounce that or like say that in audio, but there's no space between between the semicolon after friends and Emily. And then also there's an ellipses. There's like the and ... and then there's no space and then Jack. So there should be a space between the ellipses and Jack as well.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. The space between like the missing space between ellipses and a following word is needed again in the next sentence and again throughout the entire story. Just FYI. So I'm not going to be covering it as much. Same goes for like the when there's a semicolon, it sometimes just like does not have a space between the semicolon and the next word. That's rampant throughout the story. But I'll move on to the next one. In that day, he wore a pair of jeans and, to change, a black sweatshirt with a hood. That's supposed to be on that day, I think. Not in that day.
And for a change as well.
Yeah. Yep. And then we have this, which is really the crux of what when I realized like this story there may have been something to this story. Involving like why it had so much grammar issues as well. So a dash at the beginning. Sorry, I am late. And then there's an end dash, and then no space. But then it goes into I said panting. Period. And then another dash. I was thinking that you'd never come. End dash. Admitted sarcastically, Jack. Is this a so my comment when I first read this part, like got to the dialogue here, because that's what it is. Is that a thing to use for dialogue? Dashes on either side of the sentence or the dialogue? So I Googled it, and it looks like dashes are sometimes used, specifically the M or N dashes, in non-English language writing, which might be the case for this entire story, as the dialogue kind of felt stiff to me while I was reading it, almost as if it had been through a translation. So I think this entire story is translated from a non-English language.
Yeah.
And they just didn't clean up the writing to match English format. Because as far as I know, it's like English writing uses quotations, and if anybody wants to like correct me on that, they can in the comments. But I've never seen dashes used to like kind of separate dialogue from a story.
I'm glad you researched that, because when I saw that, I'm just like, okay, that's
yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this story, and also given the fact that the user is like a VPN, like maybe that's like was also a clue. I think this entire story may have been like translated from somebody's other country, and they've translated it to a different like from their language to English, but didn't have anybody clean up the translation, so that's why it's kind of reading so like rigid and wrong a lot of the time.
Isn't it rigid?
What?
Isn't it rigid?
Rigid, potato, like.
I don't know if that's the case, but
I think it is.
oh, good for you.
There's a D. Rigid.
Yeah, rigid or rigid. Anyway.
rigged is more like you rigged something, whereas rigid is more something that like sharp or not
Okay.
smooth.
Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. You guys really want to fight right now? I am not in a good mood today from the story.
Wait, we're poking the bear.
Yeah. So yeah, and the reason I say like I feel like this entire story could have used like an entire like round of editing to like fix up the formatting and stuff like that. Especially since like when it comes to the dialogue is not like separated like I've seen it in stories and stuff like that. It's like there's also no spaces between like dashes, so it just kind of like becomes integrated with like the sentences around it, and it becomes very hard to read.
Yeah.
So, and like maybe that isn't the case like in the language it was originally in, but like in English, like it does need to be kind of like corrected or fixed. Also, while I'm at it here, this may also be related to the writing situation, but I noticed, yeah, I said that. So while I'm at it here, sarcastically and Jack at the end of that sentence should probably be swapped, like should swap places in that sentence. So it says like, I was thinking that you'd never come, admitted Jack sarcastically, rather than admitted sarcastically Jack.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and then the next one here. So welcome to my tense talk. We spended the morning in the city, buying in cool shops and watching a movie at the cinema. So I think it should be spent, not spended. First off, and buying at cool shops rather than buying in cool shops. Maybe this isn't a tense talk. Maybe it's just a grammar issue, like a regular grammar issues.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have another tense talk later.
Okay, good.
The next one here. Suddenly, Emily exclaimed, "I have an idea. Recently, a new." What?
Sorry, to cut you off. When you said that, I imagined it as quote suddenly end quote. Emily exclaimed, like she just said suddenly all of a sudden.
Yeah, suddenly. Yeah, suddenly Emily exclaimed, "I have an idea. Recently, a new torture museum has opened. In it, there are lots of machines and so on. I'd like to go there." I felt and then that's the end of the dialogue, because it then goes over to, "I felt a strange statement, so I asked to her laughing." And then this is her this is White's dialogue. "What? Jack has influenced you with this gruesome things." So I think they meant to say I felt a strange statement. I think it should have been this felt really odd. So I said with a nervous laugh. And then what? Jack has influenced you with these gruesome things, not this gruesome things.
Yeah. With this gruesome idea.
Yeah, oh yeah, with that, yeah. Like even just chop off the S at the end of gruesome thing. But move on to the next one. At last I surrendered and left her to make we go to that sad place, but exciting at the same time. So I just kind of like took the sentence and I just corrected it in my quotes, and that becomes a running thing for my story, or for my my comments, is I just take the sentence whole cloth and then just start like tweaking it to make it sound better.
Yeah.
So how I'd fix it would be at last, comma, I surrendered and went with her to go to that sad place, comma, but I was excited at the same time. Like, just to clean up a little bit with like commas and like get rid of that and left her to make we go to that sad place. Again, I think that might have been.
Get that. What was it even trying to say?
I
Left
think it was
her?
supposed to say like I left and went with her to go to that sad place. I think is what it was trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been part of the translation error. That's my working theory with the story is that it's a some of these things are translation errors.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then the next one here, just entered. We saw an huge guillotine. So welcome to my TED Talk 2.0. Or sorry, welcome to my Tense Talk 2.0. Just entering, we saw a huge guillotine.
But it's past tense. This is story told about something that happened in the past. It's sort of tense talk to tense talk. But...
Sorry to talk tense your tense talk.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's okay. So maybe it should like we just entered as we saw a huge guillotine. I don't know, like
as we entered, we saw guillotine.
Yeah, we saw a guillotine. Yeah, that's what the sentence needs. It needs to get like kind of be retooled even more to kind of make it more legible, I guess. Man, my tense talks today are just timid, trepidatious, even.
That's big word.
Yeah. But I'll move on. I noticed a small, creepy smile on Jack's face that made me feel little uncomfortable, but I did not give him too much importance. So I guess we know Jack's last name.
Yeah,
it's Face.
Yeah,
it's Jack. The smile on Jack Face.
Yeah,
Jack
I was
Face.
gonna say that if you weren't.
Yeah. Eyeless Jack Face. By the way, Eyeless Jack is an actual creepypasta icon or like creepypasta entity. From back in the basically is around the same time as like Jeff the Killer, Slender Man, and like Smile Dog, like those kind of characters. We've actually covered him in a previous story. I think Mikey was in that one.
His name is familiar.
Yeah, Eyeless Jack. I think he's supposed to be connected to Slender Man in some way. But otherwise, I think he's also just like another killer, like Jeff the Killer or say Tickatoby, which I'll get back to that in a second.
So this story is doing that name justice.
Kind of. It's giving Jack. I guess this story is a double origin because we're getting the origin of White the Killer, but we're also getting Eyeless Jack's origin for this from this in this iteration.
Plus Slenderman's in here and Jeff
the Killer, and then we got Tickatoby because I'm guessing that's who Toby was. Spoilers.
Wow. So is this like the Smash Brothers of freaking?
No, this is a fan. This is clearly just a creepypasta fanfic. Like they just threw in as many like creepypasta celebrities as they could into their own creepypasta like origin story. Which again, it was a common thing. Like a ton of like creepypasta like teen killers like popped up during the late 2000s. So like again, once Jeff the Killer showed up, every preteen girl and like goth teen who was obsessed with like creepypastas and stuff like that back in those days was making their own OC like teen serial killers. So yeah. Because they just want they can change them or they can it's like they're so dreamy. Yeah, exactly. I watched actually a video the other day kind of looking at Jeff the Killer because like we've been doing this month of Jeff the Killer of like Jeffuary. So and like it popped up on my YouTube feed and I was like, oh, I'll give this a watch. And they were basically going into that like where like yeah, there was just this phase during like the late 2000s where certain creepypasta icons got really popular, not because they were scary, but because they were scary sexy to a lot of like goth teens, or like again they had that kind of like weird morbid like power fantasy that like high schoolers have sometimes of all edginess. So, but I digress. I'll move on to the next thing here. So on top of like that, like again, Jack Face. I think it should be Jack's Face. But also, that made me feel a little uncomfortable, not feel a little uncomfortable. And then, but I did not give him too much notice, not too much importance.
Yeah,
Just
or I
like,
didn't pay him too much. Paid too much mind to him or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, that would work as well. But moving on to the next sentence here, we continued the route of museum for a lot of time. So it's the way it's written. It's kind of hard to read, like coherently. We continued the route of museum for a lot of time, observing fast and effective or tortures capable to causing slow and dying deaths. So I redid that story. I redid that sentence. We continued the route of the museum tour for a long time, observing fast and effective tortures as well as ones capable of causing slow and agonizing deaths.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And move on to the next one. Suddenly, a loudspeaker issued a woman's voice that advised the closing of the museum, and she said that we all had to go out from the museum in a time of 10 minutes. So loudspeaker.
No, she's a loud peeker. She peeked her head around the corner and screamed.
Yeah. Oh god, it's Slender Woman.
Yeah.
Also, I think the end should read said that we all had to get out of the museum in 10 minutes. Also, minutes was spelled wrong in the story, in the actual sentence. It was missing an E. But I'll move on to the next one here.
Mhm.
I urged my friends to be fast, but Jack was careful to contemplate those horrible instruments, while Emily was writing something about the machines. So I think it should remove careful to and change it to change contemplate to contemplating. So like, I urge my friends to be fast, but Jack was contemplating those horrible instruments while Emily was writing something about the machines. I don't know why, but like, the careful to contemplate. Jack was careful to contemplate. It sounds kind of off to me.
Yeah, like contemplating, you're already like being careful with thoughts and much shit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like unnecessary because it's doubling up on the same thing, kind of, redundant.
Yeah. And then my next sentence here. They said me to start to go out from that place, and that in few time they would come out. So again, I just took the whole sentence and restructured it. They told me to start leaving the place, comma, and that they would catch up in a few minutes. Period.
Yeah, there's a lot of caveman speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
End of page 1 on the Google Doc. I just like had that comment at the very end of that of my comments for that one. Just yeah, we're 1/3 of the way there. Next one. Almost were 4 minutes after closing, and the sky was already dark. I think it should have been cut to 4 minutes after the closing time, and the sky was already dark.
I don't think many people say cut to in that sort of situation. It works well for D&D games and everything because it is doing an actual cut, but in this is just like a few minutes later than that was happening.
I guess I do it. Like, I added it in my writing and stuff like that. That's why I used it. So fuck you. No.
That's valid.
Yeah. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I always use it. Weird because I am the GM most of the time in our D&D games and tabletop games. So
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's not the common choice that most people would pick to fix something.
Fair. That's fair. But yeah, or a few like 4 minutes went by after the closing time, and the sky was already dark, I guess.
Yeah, it was a few minutes past closing time, and the skies would be dark.
Yeah, there we go. Then moving on to the next one. Suddenly, the lights of museum turned off, and I remained into the darkness, listening the closing of the doors of the structure. So suddenly, the lights of the museum turned off, and I remained in darkness, or maybe even I stood in darkness, maybe.
Yeah, or I was stuck in the darkness. Yeah.
And then listening to the sounds of closing doors. Like, you don't even need to add this, like, of the structure or the closing of the doors. Just listening to the sounds of closing doors, like like that's what it invokes.
It also sound like you're doing
get some dubstep going in here.
Also, are these museum staff in Derpland? Because I clearly didn't check for people in the museum.
It's very possible this is in Derpland.
Also, I believe, like, I mean, I don't work in a museum. I don't often sneak into museums after hours. But wouldn't they, like, leave the lights on? Because most stores leave the lights on when they're shut down because, you know, you can see shit on the cameras.
They would leave, they probably would have, like, secondary light. Like, they probably, like, every other light would be turned, like, because most buildings like this, in this kind of building, would have, like, every other set of light, of lights, like, on a different circuit. Yes. So they'd shut down, like, half the lights and to allow, like, the security guards to do their patrols and not in total darkness.
Yeah, because the way it was described, it kind of felt like the entire thing was just black.
Yeah, they just turned off all the lights and stuff like that. But
that being said, if it was
you know what,
you wouldn't have been able to see the murder.
Also, like, I have, again, this is more me, like my experience in like watching things in like pulp media and stuff. But I have seen things where, like, a museum is completely dark, no lights on, and, like, the security guard is walking around with a flashlight as his means of lighting his way. So
fair enough.
Maybe museums just turn off all their lights, like, at night, or maybe they do the thing that, like, some office buildings do, where they turn off most of their lights except for, like, some, like, not emergency ones, but like tertiary or preliminary, or, like, just, like, some basic ones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, regardless, that whole sentence was wrong.
Yes.
And need to be corrected. Next one. My heart started to pulse fast, and luckily I had a good night vision. Sorry, I had a good night view that made me did not banging against the windows. These sentences, man. So my heart started to pulse fast, and but luckily I had good night vision that helped me avoid banging against any walls or windows. That's how I'd fix it.
Yeah. All right.
And then next one here. I remained stationary for a few times, but suddenly I heard a scream. So again, this is a case of, like, I think a few times should be replaced with sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Next one here. Emily, I exclaimed, running. So exclaimed is missing the C, so it's exclaimed.
Oh, so
yeah. My next one here. I arrived in a small room where filtrated few moonlight through the window. So I think it should be where moonlight filtered in through a window.
Yes.
Because filtrated, or let's just say where moonlight infiltrated through a window.
No, moonlight's going through a filtration system.
Yeah.
To get through the window.
Yeah, the filtration system being the glass on the window. Yeah. Yeah. But moving on. Then I rotated the look, and what I saw was horrible. ... Emily's body on a torture machine, completely damaged, and dripping blood. And above all, with a hole in the rib cage, where there was the heart, in that moment disappeared. So I rewrote this story, or I restructured that sentence.
You keep saying I rewrote the story. I feel like you really want to.
I really wanted to rewrite the story. Like again, take this, like use the material that was here, but like restructure it and rewrite it, like so that it made more sense. In a way, I did to a degree.
Yeah, I did.
So I turned around, and what I saw was horrible. ... Emily's body on a torture machine, completely damaged and dripping blood, and above all, with a hole in her rib cage where her heart should have been, but was missing. So just for some clarity here, so completely and damaged were spelled wrong.
How do you?
In fact, you know what I just realized? They're both they both have each other's missing word or missing letter.
Really?
Because completely is completally, and damaged is demaged. They just completely just needs the e added, and damaged just needs the a added in place.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that sort of.
That is an interesting typo, like word flub.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll move on. Oh yeah. Also, the way that kind of like sounds to me, like Emily's body was on a torture machine, completely damaged and dripping in blood. Is Emily a robot?
Yeah.
Are all of them?
I don't like the use of damaged in this situation.
They use it again when White defenestrates herself. It's like I jumped out the window undamaged. It's like, are they all robots? Like, I know it might just be the translation error or like a translation issue, and like they're like the translation's using words that like we wouldn't usually associate for this. But the use of completely damaged makes it sound like that maybe they're like some kind of bioroid or cyborgs.
Yeah, like there's blood coming out of them, but that's like just fluids and shit.
Exactly, yeah. Or they could be blood, but like they could be like part organic. Or a bioroid, where like bioroids are like human or like organic robots or organic android. Like the synths from the latest generation synths from Fallout 4
No.
are pretty well just regular people, but they have like some like implants inside of them that like make them like they were synthetically created humans that have a few implants that allow them for like to be reprogrammed and such. So but otherwise they would pass as human.
They eat, they sleep, they bleed, and they like
I think they have there's some benefits to them that makes them like robotic. So like they have like some natural like immunities and such. Like they don't get sick or anything like that. I don't know if they have to eat or not, and I know they might just sleep as like a simulacrum to pass as human. But otherwise, like they bleed, which means you can kill them,
yeah, of course.
as Arnold has proclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this would make the story into the 2080s with bioroids and cyborgs,
which I'm not against.
No. One day I'll run that Shadowrun campaign for you guys, set in the 2080s of like Neo Derpland or something. I mean, this story kind of sounds like it's take place in Derpland, like we were saying, like Mikey said earlier. It's like the Derpland Museum of Torture.
Yeah,
Derpland would have a museum of torture.
Yeah, that kind of seems on brand. But...
yeah. But I'll move on. I crossed with the look of Jack, and his mouth were dirty by the blood. He had eaten my friend's heart. So I restructured the sentence. I looked back to Jack, and his mouth was a mess from the blood that from the blood ... he had eaten my friend's heart. Kind of just like I kind of kept the like from the blood, like the blood, and then ... he had eaten his friend's heart. Just kind of add like that extra like little oomph of like her revelation of like where'd that blood come from.
Yeah.
And like suddenly her realizing that, oh god, he's eaten her heart.
Now he's gonna eat me.
Oh my god. That's just like second time in 2 weeks that we've referenced Goblin or Troll 2. Well, it was originally called Goblin.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on. His grip was firm, but suddenly my fear became detrition or detestation and anger ... For the first time, I felt strangely, the heart
Felt strangely,
strangely,
I always feel calm.
strangely, the heart began to pulse irregularly, and a negative energy invaded my body.
Wow.
So I fixed it, or I fixed most of the sentence. So it's like, suddenly my fear became disgust and anger, because I don't know what detestation was supposed to be.
Devastation.
Maybe detestation, like a detestment,
or like
a
devastated.
Devastation, maybe, yeah. But I went with disgust.
Fair.
And then ... For the first time, I felt very strange, my heart began to pulse irregularly, ... the ... in that case was actually like just because I didn't want to keep writing, like the rest of the sentence, because it was keeping the same sentence. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's how I would fix that sentence.
Cool.
Moving on to the next one. So, stealing his knife, I pulled him out his eyes, making him shout like a hell, and then I stabbed him at one leg, but with a punch, he made me leave his knife. So my corrections are as follows. So, stealing his knife, I carved out his eyes, making him shout like hell, and then I stabbed him in one leg. But with a punch, he made me let go of his knife.
I think it should be scream like hell.
Yeah,
like
scream.
hell.
Yeah, scream like hell is much more effective, I think. Yeah, I'd go with that.
So why'd you change the bit at the end when forced her to break up with his knife? They were in a long budding romance, and he forced her to leave his knife.
Because of that exact bullshit that you just said, that you just went with.
That's the only reason that she hung out with him, because she was dating his knife.
Yeah. She was dating Jackknife, not Jackknife.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, I'll move on. This one's another damages. Remaining there was useless, so I crashed a window and I fell out of the museum without too much damages. I think it should. I fell out of the museum without too much damage. If you're going to keep going with that use of damage,
or just I didn't without hurting myself.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, no, because we've established they're robots or they're bioroids.
That's true.
Also,
it's fine to assume that, but you can't assume that she was in a relationship with Jack Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. I see how it is.
Yeah, it's a double standard, sir. Honestly, like now that we keep putting that in my head, now I can't stop thinking about the knife with a face in High on Life. That Rick and Morty inspired, or like same vein Rick and Morty, like for first person shooter that's on Xbox now.
Actually, the dude who did Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it's by the same writer, and like probably he had a hand in like the art style and stuff, because it kind of has a Rick and Morty art style.
Yeah, 100%.
But there is a knife that has a face that you get very early on, and it wants to stab things. That's it. That's what it loves.
Yep.
And it talks to you. So yeah, that's all. Basically, Jack had knifey, or had Jack had jackknife, and that's the only reason White hung out with Jack, is because she secretly had a crush with Jackknife.
No, she was secretly actually dating Jack. But Jack,
yes, that's true.
He's just kind of like, he's dense. He doesn't realize that's like he thinks that she's actually interested in him, but it's really just Jackknife.
Hence why all the caveman speech.
Yep.
Wow.
See, it all makes sense. The story's great.
We're building a rich and deep lore for this story.
I told you we would turn around on this.
Sure. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. We're having fun, are we not?
Yes, we are being critically silly. It is half of our show. But moving on. I saw again that tall thing put one of his arm through the crashed window, and I continued to run to arrive at home. So I think it should be arms, not one of his arms, not one of his arm.
Yes.
And then maybe the like when it's like through the crashed window, and I continued to run. It's like, but I continued to run to arrive home. Like she saw that shit and she's like, nope, keep going. Also, it was at this point that I realized, like, oh, Slender Man, he's here. That's what that tall thing was in the window.
Yeah, that's
yeah. And then like later on, it does just straight up says like it was Slender Man.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was first until it straight up said, "Oh, it's Slender Man." Like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. But moving on to the next one here. The door wan not open, so I broke an other window to go into my house. So I think it said the door wouldn't open, not wan not.
It was not open.
Oh, the door was not open. That's the simpler solution. Honestly. Yeah, that's the simplest solution. Yep. Also, an other for some reason is two words when it should be another. And then the next one here. By that time, I was ready to everything. Sorry. To everything.
Yeah.
I was ready to everything. Rather pure adrenaline and charge interminably invaded my body. So again, I just took the sentence and restructured it.
Also, that's interminable.
Interminable. Sorry.
Mindable.
No, there's no D.
Exactly. You're saying the D.
No, I'm trying not to say the D. I'm sorry.
It's minimal. You're right.
Yeah. Interminable. Yeah.
Yes.
We've lost most of our audience at this point.
I mean, they can only tolerate the grammar acquisition. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so here's how I restructured the sentence. By that time, I was ready for anything, with pure adrenaline coursing through my body. Like there, just get rid of that. Like charge interminable invaded my body. Like just get rid of that.
Yeah. Although in regards to her being ready to everything,
yeah,
like basically she like got into a room and like an 80s suit up montage happened, like grabbing literally everything in that, like knife, gun, baseball bat, rope, chainsaw, ladder, sleeping bag, flashlight, food, water, lighter, laptop, raincoat, winter coat, bike, stove, like all everything.
Kitchen sink.
Yeah, with a kitchen sink on top. So it's just under all this pile. It's like I am ready to anything, to everything, sir.
Yeah, I'm ready to everything. I can't even to everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what it said like me. That's why I was laughing earlier. It's like I can't even. But I'll move on. I covered my mouth with the hand to not shout. And he keeps going. I think the hand should be my hand. Like I covered my mouth with my hand. Might be some double dipping with like the my mouth and stuff like that, but like I don't know. The hand just didn't sound right to me. So I want it fixed.
That's fair. The
Uh,
Hand is the secret organization of bad guys that's in the Iron Fist series. And
Yes.
that's not what we're talking.
No, not at all. Moving on. Dear White, thanks for the amazing day. ... Now you feel alone, right? I think now this is technically a letter. So Eyeless Jack might have gotten this wrong. Like got his spelling wrong, and so it's like the way the character writes. Also, it's amazing he wrote that coherently without eyes.
Yeah, very recently become blind and then just write the letter.
Yeah. So, but for the sake of our show,
White,
it should.
It has been a fortnight since I think of this very fancy letter.
Yeah. But I feel it should. I feel it should have said, "Now feel alone," right? But again, he's blind at this point. He's writing this down. It's amazing he wrote this well already. So it's kosher.
I'll keep you company, not I'll keep company too.
Yeah. But on to the next one. How it's actually the next sentence down. How could he put there? How could he put it there if he was all the day with me? I think it should be if he was with me all day.
Yes.
The next one here. I took a big knife and I cutted it. So for some reason they added a TED at the end of cut. So I think it just needs to be that removed. And so it says, and I cut it. Then my next one here. The being to which it belonged emitted something similar to a otherworldly thing. The same grimace that a monster does when it eats an human. So first thing, it's hard to say it in the sentence, like pronounce it in the sentence. Emitted needs an extra T because as it is, it wasn't spelled right.
It's emitted instead of emitted.
Also, it should be an otherworldly thing and eats a human.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how does White know what the look and what that looks and sounds like? Like the grimace that a monster does when it eats a human.
Have you watched horror movies before?
True. Also, she did just leave a museum of torture. They might have actually had some cannibalistic torture in there somewhere.
With audio clips?
Maybe. Yeah, it's a museum exhibit, sir. They might have actually had they have audio in when you go into the dinosaur exhibits of or even like the natural world exhibits at the Royal Ontario Museum. So that's how I'm basing it off of my own experiences at the Royal Ontario Museum.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah,
I seem to be saying that a lot today.
Yeah, I know.
Because I give you guff on something, and then it's like, all right.
You try to give me guff because that's like the nature of our relationship, and then I just push back, and you're like, all right, fine.
It's not worth
it. Yeah. Moving on. I backed, but I slammed against someone. ... When I turned, I saw Jack, or better, eyeless Jack. So again, I mentioned this earlier, needs a space between the first word and the previous sentence, because like there, like the previous sentence, like it did its thing, and then there's a period, and then there was no space between the period and I backed but slammed ... So again, similar thing that's throughout the story, like there needs to be spaces in certain spots where there aren't spaces.
So I really don't think eyeless Jack being there is better.
Or worse, eyeless Jack, maybe.
Or more accurately.
Yeah, that one would be more accurately would work as well. Yeah. Also, I backed up, but I slammed against someone. Like not I backed. Like needs that backed up. Now I'm just envisioning the white like beep beep beep, just as she like reverses.
Yep.
Next one here. He wanted his eyes, but I did not want leave them. So apparently she's in another relationship with his eyes.
Well, no, she was forced to break up with Jack Knife, so now she's with Jack Eyes.
Yeah, Jack Eyes. Yeah. But I think like in seriousness for the sentence, I think it should be but I didn't want to return them.
Yes.
And then the next one. We began to stab the other one. Huh?
You started saying that like we baguette.
We began to stab the other one. I was liberating this negative energy, which looked without end. Suddenly, he blocked me against a wall, and he began to incise to me the face. He drew a cutted smile on my face, and from it, lots of blood was expelled, and he incised to me the profile of my eyes, prolonging it.
Everybody get that?
So here's my rewrite. We began, because for some reason it was BAGAN in the original. So we began to stab one another, period. I was liberated by this negative energy. Jack looked without eyes, and suddenly he pinned me against a wall and began to cut into my face a smile, and from it, lots of blood was expelled. And then he cut the profile of my eyes, slowly prolonging it.
Cut around my eyes.
Yeah, cut around my eyes, and then comma, slowly, comma, prolonging it. Just to kind of like break that up, it's like slowly to prolong the ordeal.
Yes.
Oh, so edgy.
I think the actual wording there with that weird word, I can't remember what it is. I think it's meaning to say inscribe.
Yeah, maybe. Though, so as I got to this part, I was like, I was like, wait, is this how we get a female Jeff the Killer? Like, is this story in fact like not like Jane the Killer, but like a gender swapped Jeff the Killer? Hence why her name is White the Killer, because Jeff is white, or like Jeff has like pale white skin, and like are we gonna get like how she gets her skin bleached and like later on? So that, like I'm kind of okay with that if somebody trying to do that in a story, especially since the original source material for the OG photo of Jeff the Killer was supposedly of a girl, just heavily photo manipulated through like Photoshop or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like the idea of like gender swapping Jeff the Killer like isn't necessarily a bad idea to me.
Isn't that just Jane the Killer though as well?
Jane the Killer does have her own thing going on. Like Jane the Killer is the product of Jeff. Hence why Jane wants to kill Jeff in those stories. Jeff, but like
the one that we just read as well.
Yeah, that was that is also technically I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Jeff, A First Encounter.
Mm-hmm.
What was the character's name in that?
I guess Jeff doing all this bad shit, like he's gonna be making a lot of
it's also kind of a metaphor for like, again, that phase of creepypasta, or that subgenre of creepypasta and phase of like creepypasta stories that got put out there after the advent of Jeff the Killer, where people were making their own OCs. So in essence, Jeff was helping create those characters.
Yes.
Through inspiration. So like similar in this case. But yeah, like this idea of like the fact that like White is a girl rather than a guy, and like being turned into like this kind of like a Jeff the Killer character. Again, at this point in the story, when I was reading it, I was like, that's actually not a bad idea. Like just gender swapping Jeff the Killer. I mean, it's not super original, but it's like it has some creativity to it at the very least. It was just a little bit of food for thought while I was slogging through the story.
Yeah.
Also,
last week was Lucas Darling.
What was his name?
Lucas
Darling. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you'd said earlier, but then like, oh, that's probably what he meant. Like, because I thought all I heard was Luke Dark. That's how my ears process what you said. Sorry.
Dark Luke is what happens when Luke Skywalker goes to the dark side.
Yes. Moving on. let's I gotta power through this. Much like what I was doing when I first read the story. With a nudge, I dismissed him, and I ran on the upper floor shouting. I entered in the bathroom, and I closed it door. I closed it door.
I heard you the first time.
No, that's just me trying to comprehend that. That's me trying to comprehend that.
How do you not understand, though?
Yeah. So I went with a nudge. I kept the with a nudge. I dismissed it. It's technically accurate.
Yeah.
With a nudge, I dismissed him and ran for the bathroom, shouting. Upon entering, I locked the door shut. So I kind of get rid of the upper floor because it comes back in a few sentences or paragraphs. It talks about them hitting the lower floor, and I think that just meant that they hit the ground, not not they didn't go to another level of the building.
Yeah.
So I think this is the same case. She just ran up, or she ran I don't know if it's supposed to mean that she ran up to a second floor and to the bathroom. I think or at the very least I'd even clean that up and just cut that out and just have the bathroom be on the same floor as the kitchen, because then after she gets out of the bathroom, they're back in the kitchen. So what? She ran down the stairs again to the kitchen.
Yeah. It's world
I don't know.
building.
It's superfluous. It doesn't need to be needed.
Okay, that too.
Yeah. Moving on to the next one. In few time, I saw myself at the mirror to see how I was after all those battles. So my fix was soon after, I looked at myself in the mirror to see how I was after the battle, not battles. That was just one battle.
There was two. She got attacked twice.
Yeah.
She absolutely got attacked twice. I will fight you.
All right, we'll have our own battle. All right, I will concede as after these battles, then maybe.
Also, they weren't really battles because she mostly just got the shit kicked out of her.
Why do you continue to fight me?
Because this is the way it is. It's fine. What I'm trying to say though is it should just be after the attacks. She's acting like she is on par with him when she's literally just a victim. Or she's
yeah, exactly. These are just skirmishes. These are just quick attacks. Not there's not an epic war or conflict going on here.
Yeah.
It's a fight for it's a fight more than a battle. It's an attack, like you said. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would honestly. Yeah. I think attacks is probably more accurate of a word than battle in this case. But moving on to the next one. The clothes were tattered and blood soaker, and some strands of my hair were dirty.
Blood soaker is the darkest form of super soaker out there.
Man, that needs to be a creepypasta. I will write that creepypasta of kids playing a super soaker game, but it gets bloody, and that's what either it's because I used to have a really good super soaker back when in the 90s that I saved up for and stuff of that, and it had a lot of pressure to it and stuff. And there was a warning on it that said do not fire directly into somebody's face because it might damage their eyes and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was that high powered of a super soaker.
It's pressure washer, basically.
Yeah, basically it was a pressure washer, a short burst pressure washer for one shot. It was a pressure washer level of PSI.
Nice.
But it really wasn't. It was just it was a warning that they gave so that kids just wouldn't shoot each other in the eye and hurt them. But I could see that being a creepypasta where some kid finds a really cool super soaker at a thrift store and shoots the person, and then they just get it just perforates them even more so from a pressure washer.
Oh, that's not how I was going at all.
Oh no, what were you going with?
Take a super soaker, fill it with blood, and shoot blood.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should have a plot growers episode for our Patreon where we discuss how we would write blood soaker. the creepypasta. Like,
could also have both weapons.
could have both. Yeah, we could again. We'll
that creates blood, because then
we'll
create blood with the pressure washer one, and then you refill the other blood soaker with the blood that
the blood of your enemies.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll have a brainstorm session at some point
Mhm.
and like discuss this.
Okay.
But moving on. So I think it should be my clothes were tattered and blood soaked, not blood soaker. Also, I love that superfluous like extra detail after that. Like her clothes are tattered, she's blood soaked, and some strands of her hair are dirty.
Yeah, there's a little bit of dirt in her hair.
Like
I mean, I'm fine with it because it builds the visual more. It's kind of funny how it's the order of escalation of it is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like it gets like escalation, then like past blood soaker, and then it just goes down. It drops.
Yeah, you start with the mundane shit and you get description.
Yeah. Now if her hair was dirty, like with caked blood or like viscera, there we go.
Mhm.
Extra
Not
escalation.
just like she hasn't had a shower in a couple of days.
Yeah, my hair's a little greasy, and like
Yeah.
there's some dirt from when I jumped out that window at the museum.
There's like a small piece of glass in there.
Yeah. But I'll move on. My eyes were bloodshot, and they were not dark like before, but the irises had become red. My face was stained with tears of blood. But the most different thing was the glance. The pupils were become smaller. ... I was become mad. I had become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
I would remove the comma at the like the first comma there, like so like they were not dark like before, comma, but the irises. I was like, they were not dark like before. Just like and just have like but like you don't need that comma there, really. What am I trying to say here? Hang on. Oh, okay. So this is how I would go with this. So I would remove the comma and but in the middle there, like where it says tears of blood, comma, but the most different thing was the glance. And just start a new sentence there. So like my eyes were bloodshot and they were not dark like before, but the irises had become red. My face was stained with tears of blood. Period. The most different, and then the sentence that would follow would be, however, comma, the biggest difference was my glance. The pupils were becoming smaller. I looked crazed. So it still gets across the fact that like she's like her eyes are like kind of tweaking out, like she's going mad, but you don't use mad. It also might do a little bit of clearing up for like people who think that like mad also means angry and not just crazy. So
Man, the word mad makes me mad.
I know. It makes me mad too. Like
it makes me mad and also mad.
Yeah.
Because goddamn.
Mm-hmm. That's just something you gotta live with now, man. Like that's human language.
Not for long. I'm still working on English 2.0.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see if it takes off.
Yeah. The next one. I put the knife at the belt, and I did something that made me be lethal. So I think it should be I put the knife on my belt, not at the belt. Yeah. It's something that comes up a couple of times in the story. Like every time she's like at the belt is like it technically should be on my belt, not at the belt. Like I get what it's trying to say, but it's wrong to me.
The second one isn't referring to a belt like stringing or nothing. I think it's like for like
I have it
down over there.
I think I have it later on. So
yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Next thing here. Took a rasp and I milled my teeth, which became all pointed. So I would go with filed rather than milled.
I did not even read that.
Because like filing your teeth to become sharp and like all pointed and stuff like that. Like I understand why like the translation might have like picked up milled, because milled does have a similar like meaning to filed, but like and also of course like became should be became. Like it shouldn't have that A after B, it should have an E. Also I learned another word today. For a rasp is a type of file. I say keep it for people like somebody in this discussion right now, gamer, can have some happiness of a word that doesn't mean something else and cause him confusion.
Because a file can be
a document file or a program file
or the
or
verb of filing.
Yeah, or the verb of filing, as into like catalog, or
but also filing with a file.
Also, yeah. So like, it has like so. It has a
filing with a file.
File has at least a baker's dozen word meanings.
Hate that.
But yeah, I learned a new word because rasp is a type of file, like a type of the tool, like the filing tool that where you file your nails or something like that. It's it's called a rasp.
Is that specifically just like basically the big popsicle stick and that's it?
Yeah.
And she filed her teeth down with that?
Yeah.
No.
It's possible.
No.
I mean,
wear that out so much. You know how hard teeth are?
Enamel, yeah. You know, enamel is pretty hard.
Yeah.
I did watch
a metal file for like doing wood, maybe. Like
maybe, yeah. I did watch one of those like will it press videos, and it took a lot of pressure to break a tooth. So
yeah, those like emery boards or whatever the frick they are, that is not strong enough sandpaper to file down your teeth.
Oh, it's not sandpaper necessarily, but hang on, a rasp. Let me pull it up. It's a coarse form of file used. Yeah, it's basically this one. It's actually a rasp is actually the hardware tool, not the one that you file your nails on.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's the wood. It's a wood. A rasp is the wood filer.
That's fine.
Yeah.
When I said popsicle stick, like
you meant the one that like where people like use it to file their nails and such.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you said yes, then I'm like, oh.
That's what I thought that was it, and then when I googled it again now, I saw that I was mistaken.
Cool.
So
I will absolutely start using the word rasp.
Yeah.
Because fuck files.
Yeah. Hence why I add that little part of like, I think it should stay here so that that's not too, so just to give some happiness to a fellow friend here.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm on your side most times.
That being said, at this point of the story, I was just like, I want to finish this. And
yeah,
I didn't look up words at this point. I'm like, I took a rasp and I mold my teeth. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Maybe she's talking about like gritting her teeth or something, whatever, which became all pointed. I'm like, okay. Did she just turn into a werewolf or maybe a vampire at this point?
No, she just has sharp teeth.
Yes, I understand that, but they just all of a sudden became pointed.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up on the fact that they rasped and rasped her teeth. I don't know what the verb for rasping is.
I think it's just, I think honestly, you use a rasp to file. Yeah.
Fuck. Halfway there.
We're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Yeah, take my hand. We'll make it, I swear. Sorry.
Just wait for an entire rendition of the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, with like Slenderman showing up out of nowhere and shit, like, yeah, I wouldn't have put it past the story to just all of a sudden she's a vampire. All of a sudden she's a werewolf, whatever. Like, yeah. Pointed teeth all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is the 20 days later, not the 20 days, that's zombies. The 30 days of night vampires have shark teeth. Like all of their teeth are just sharp teeth.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because they do not like, oh, 2 pinpricks on your neck and you're drained. No, they just gouge out your jugular.
Nice.
And drink your blood as it fountains out. Like that's what they do.
Yeah, they're not 2 little syringes. It's literally like you're creating a wound and you're drinking.
It's the old school way of vampires, because like old school like vampires and stuff from like Eastern Europe, they would just like vampires and stuff. They would just like rip out your jugular and drink and drink your blood. Like you it looked like a dog wound more than anything. But I'm still not out of my grammar inquisition. I need to get out of here.
Yep.
So next thing here, open the door, got on the floor, everybody walked to the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Opened the door of the bathroom and I bited Jack. Was a wonderful feeling. ... He made me go in the lowest floor with his knife, and he followed me, bumping objects for his blindness, or for the blindness. So I fixed that. I restructured the sentence. I opened the door of the bathroom and I bit Jack, which gave me a wonderful feeling. However, he pushed me to the floor with his knife and fell himself, bumping nearby objects because of his blindness. Done. Next one here. We stopped the fight and Jack was covered by a black substance while I observed him, and then I fainted. So buy is like to buy something. So
Why?
Jack was covered by BY, not BUY. Unless he's buying that black substance that he's being covered in. I don't know. I was on a bed made with leaves with my knife at the belt. Again, I think the knife should be on my belt.
Does she have like a holster for it? A sheath?
Or she's just like sliding the knife between like her pant and her belt.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Under
my belt then?
Yeah, under the belt. Yeah, maybe that would go with it.
If it's at belt, it really makes it seem like she has a sheath.
Yeah.
What knife does she have again? I don't remember.
It's a kitchen knife.
Then she probably does not have a sheath for it.
No. Yeah, she pulled it from like the kitchen, so I'm guessing it was like a kitchen like meat knife or something.
Yeah.
Moving on. I got up slowly, trying to understand the situation. So a simple typo error. There's a C where there should be a T in situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, next one. For some week, I worked for Slenderman with other boys, killing and murdering. I kind of went with for some time rather than some week or even some weeks, just because like sometime is vague, is like a good vague word for that. Like she may not know what weeks, like how many weeks it's been, but like for some time, she worked for Slenderman and with other boys and such.
Yeah, other boys kind of sounds weird, honestly.
What it sounds what?
Weird.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be with other people?
Yeah, other people or other teens or other kids.
Because other boys would also insinuate that she's a boy.
No, or she's the token girl of the Slenderman crew, of the proxy crew.
Uh-huh.
She's the token white girl.
Yep. With the name White. That's why she's white.
Moving on.
Okay.
I met new people too. For example, a nice but strange guy named Toby that first fell in love with me, but I did not care. So remove that first, like that fell in love with me. Like that's all you need. You don't need the first. Also, this was the final nail in the coffin for me that this story was just an OC insert fanfic, like crossover story. Like you got, like we said earlier, you got Slenderman, you got Eyeless Jack, you got Jeff the Killer in a couple of paragraphs, and you got Tickatoby, who I'm assuming is who Toby is, who is one of those popular Slenderman proxies, which we've actually never covered on the show. I just realized.
I was gonna say, it does not seem familiar.
Yeah, we've never actually covered Tickatoby, but it is one of those like, I do in quotes, heartthrob like teen serial killers that came out of like the Jeff the Killer Slenderman like preteen gush phase of creepypastas.
But he's also basically a masky.
Yeah, basically it's a masky. Like he's got like yellow goggles on. He's got like a face mask that like has like a crisscross like smile, like a smile with like it almost looks like crisscross threads like going through his smile.
You had me at yellow.
I know. He's also wears a hoodie and like he has like biker gloves on, and he goes around and kills people, and then is so tsundere and so like so dreamy because like yeah.
I said like of course he wears a hoodie as I'm standing here in a yellow hoodie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. A gamer.
It's fine.
Oh
man,
yeah, so
I'm a guy in a hoodie with a mask.
Yeah, and some kind of like some like gamey kind like video game or like nerd like kind of like nerdy kind of thing that would like make you an iconic character. You become a creepypasta character. I just realized you are a creepypasta icon like from this era of creepypasta killers.
I don't know. Don't lump me in with them, please.
We need to start writing some Gamer in Yellow stories where like the Gamer in Yellow goes hunting and killing people he hates on multiplayer games.
Wow, I would never do that. How dare.
That you know of.
If anything, I would hunt down and kill the killers.
Yeah, okay. So so we could that could be tied into that story that we were I kind of trying to coax you into doing at some point from last session, or from like I think it was either Grubby Grab Grub or the last story we did where Jeff the Killer, like you thought Jeff the Killer was going to get his comeuppance.
Yes, last episode.
And yeah. So we could have that, like maybe it was the Gamer in Yellow who's a proxy who kills other, or like not a proxy, he's a creepypasta killer who kills other creepypasta killers.
I mean, I could be a proxy of he who shall not be named.
Yes.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Moving on. Well, again, another idea for a Plot Growers episode for our Patreon.
Yeah, another seed to plant later.
Yeah, exactly. But I will move on. I wanted escape, period. One morning, I took off the mask and I ran through the wood. So I tweaked these two sentences to kind of be together. So I wanted to escape, comma. So one morning, I took off the mask and I ran through the wood. I would say something about using the use of wood as opposed to woods in the story, but wood is technically a valid use of that word. See the use in classic literature, such as the 100-acre wood. Like in older English and in like maybe some other parts of Europe, like they do use wood as in like a wood as in a forest.
Yeah.
So otherwise though, like for a more modern take, I would have also added an S at the end of woods to kind of again modernize it, I guess, or I guess Americanize it, maybe even. I don't know. But I'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, during the sprint, I bumped against another guy who had my same idea. So this is the case of where, again, another, like an other, should be compounded into one word, but also who had the same idea, not my same idea.
And I hate how my brain works. As soon as you said "an other," I'm like, okay, that's another.
God damn it. An other.
Yeah.
That's definitely a creepypasta monster too.
Yeah, she's friends with Just in Time, probably.
Yeah, Just in Time and Mr. E.
Yeah. And misinformation, of course.
Yeah, misinformation and misdemeanor. Misdemeanor. I can't even take credit for that. That's straight out of the old 90s cartoon show Cops.
Yeah.
Misdemeanor.
I also can't take credit for misinformation. That's from South Park.
If I'm being honest, I can't take credit for Mr. E either. I've been listening to an actual play podcast called All Roads Tavern, who they do an amazing 80s style like horror kids like Goonies kind of thing called Elder Hollow. And one of the players mentioned that the rival high school or the rival school's team mascot was I think it was the Pine Bluffs Mysteries, and their mascot is just a guy in a suit with an E on a chain, like Mr. E.
Oh, like Mr. T.
Yeah, exactly. They
Oh,
even said, one of the other players even like mentioned that. Yeah, like
That's
Mr. T. Yeah, but yeah.
Mr. E is also Mikey's father.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
the East does stand for evil.
Mhm.
But moving on. So, where the hell am I? Okay, yeah, another, yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, so moving on to the next thing here. His skin was white, his hair were black and long, his eyes were light blue, and his smile was bloody. So I think this should be his hair was black and long, not his hair were black and long, or unless it's like his hairs were black and long, the scraggly hairs. This Jeff the Killer only has a few strands of hair.
Yes.
Honestly, that would make. I think that might make the design of Jeff the Killer a little scarier. Is that if he only had like scraggly hair like Golem?
Yeah, but the whole point of Jeff the Killer is he's fucking.
I mean, you're not. That is a byproduct of his creation.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, moving
Like,
on. I can see
say it, but
we've been insinuating it for years.
yeah.
Also, I can see the end of the end of the tunnel. I'm nearly at my actual thoughts.
Almost at the 2/3 mark.
Oh my god. So the next thing here, we were both killer, so we began to fight until the moment when we decided to stop to not do too much noise. So I could make an argument as like we were both killer, as in we were both like awesome, so we began fighting. But I think it's supposed to be we were both killers.
Yeah,
Hence why
but
they
it's
started.
also like they are both so and so the killer. Like, as in, if you are killer, you are basically you have the same power set.
Yeah, so like maybe it should be like we were both in quotes the killer.
Yes. Possibly.
So maybe that. Also, at the very end there it says, so we decided to stop, comma, as to not make much noise. Just clean that last bit up as well.
Also, that whole quote unquote scene could have been done so much better because, like, it's a freaking.
We could have had a fight scene between White the Killer and Jeff.
Yeah, and they don't fight.
Yeah,
Like, they technically fight, but
we got more.
Described.
This story, which is on the Jeff the Killer wiki, gives Eyeless Jack and Slenderman more screen time than Jeff.
That's actually hilarious.
Like I was legitimately worried as I was reading the story. It's like, did this story legitimately not have Jeff the Killer in it? Until like the last part of the story, like the last couple of paragraphs, he shows up and befriends White the Killer, of course.
Yes.
But moving on, we spended a lot of time together, so I discovered that the guy's name was Jeff. Dun dun dun! Finally, he's here. He's in the story, kind of.
That was just how it ended.
That would have been perfect.
Story and then,
Fuck.
Oh, it's Jeff.
That would have actually been really fun. I think that would have been like a good ending, honestly, for this story. But we don't get that, and also it's we spent, not we spended. Also, I think maybe replace so when it says time together, so I discovered that the guy's name was Jeff, maybe have it a lot of time together and I discovered that the guy's name was Jeff.
Yes.
So that correlates, yeah.
Also,
next thing
in
here,
the story they're saying that the origin of Jeff the Killer is he's a Slender.
that he was a proxy. That's what they're establishing in the story.
Yeah, like, but is it as if he became killer because he's a proxy, or was he already a killer and then Slenderman took it?
Well, I think Slenderman may. I think this might be. I don't think this is an origin. Like this is a new iteration of Jeff. I think in this version, Jeff still had his original origin story of being bullied and then turning into a killer. But then at some point after that, those events, Slenderman abducted him and turned him into a proxy. But he wanted to escape that, much like White's situation, right? So I think that's the same, because the same situation happened to her and Eyeless Jack.
That's true.
Like, so, also, and that was another thing that that one video. I'll post a link to that video in our description. The other things that like a lot of why kind of explains why a lot of teens like latched onto Jeff as a character and as a in the stories and so that made so many OCs and like fanfics about it is because he was a killer. Yes, he was a teen serial killer, but the reason he kind of became a teen serial killer is because he was bullied. So a lot of kids can relate to that. Like
it also gives a lot of kids really bad ideas.
It does, but it also does explain a lot of like his like why he's relatable to a lot of kids. Because a lot of kids, like myself included, as a teenager back in the day, I probably had a lot of dark thoughts about like the assholes that bullied me in high school. So
I was one of the assholes that bullied you in high school.
yeah, no, yeah, you were, yeah. Now, obviously, again, you grow up and you like you have moral compasses and stuff like that, but like a lot of kids like get like sometimes they have the pushing, like they get pushed over the edge and stuff like that. Hence why we have certain problems with the school school shootings and such. Yeah, real life shit happens. But again, it's a psychological like explanation for why teens did kind of latch on to this idea of like the teen serial killer heartthrob of creepypastas.
Yes.
Is because they were kind of relatable in that their origins are usually steeped in that they were bullied. And then they just had the power the edgy goth teen power fantasy of like lashing out and becoming a serial killer to get revenge. Like they're more like it's like the vigilante power fantasy kind of thing. But
just to clarify, I was not a dick in high school.
I mean, no,
I basically just sass you the way I sass you now.
Yeah, exactly. So nothing's changed.
Yeah, exactly.
we just actually became stronger friends as a result of it.
Yeah. I hardened you up against
Yeah, I just got Stockholm syndromed.
Yeah.
Moving on though. Back to the story at hand. I can see that the end of the tunnel here for the grammar inquisition. I can see it. I'm like crawling on the rocks trying to get to the end of the tunnel. I feel like I'm in Kitsuragi Station all over again.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So next thing here we have, first I was not friendly with him, but I waited few time. Now Jeff and I are friends, and we often kill together, and look for a girl called Jane to murder her. So I think it should be like, but I waited some time, rather than, but I waited few time. Also, one last name drop of a pre-existing creepypasta character, Jane the Killer. Let's see, we got Slenderman, Eyeless Jack, Ticketoby, Jeff the Killer, and Jane the Killer. About five creepypasta icons from like the late 2000s. All in one story, and it's the story of that's the origin for another killer. And my final grammar inquisition.
It's happening.
Eyeless Jack continues to follow and look for me, and looking for me to get his eyes, which now I use like earrings. And Slenderman and his proxies are looking for me to made me enter again in his team. So I rewrote this last this last grammar inquisition sentence as followed. Eyeless Jack continues to hunt for me to get his eyes back, comma, which now I use like earrings, period. Slenderman and his proxies are also looking for me to make me part of their team again, period. Done.
Wow, you stuck with team?
Yeah.
I think team's ridiculous. It sounds like he's like, like it's like a baseball team,
he's like, collecting like oh god.
Oh.
Oh god. Yeah.
It's a team for conflicted teens.
So it's a team.
Mm-hmm.
Team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the
So he's doing like a support group.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
it's not
What other word would you use rather than team then, gamer? Slenderman and his crew.
He's cult.
Okay. Yeah. Cult probably works really well.
Or his following.
Yeah, his following, his herd.
Yeah. Lots of
his children.
Oh yeah.
The children of Slenderman.
I'm assuming she would know what they would be referred to.
Oh, his flock.
Yeah.
Like, kind of give it like a creepypasta look, a vibe.
In any of the Slenderman things, does Slenderman speak one way or another to his proxy? Like, I know I'm not assuming words, but like with his
he
mouth,
does seem to communicate in some way, like telepathically or psychically or something like that. Yeah. There does seem to be some kind of communication. Also, it's really fun. Proxies are such an interesting thing because they spawned out of the Marble Hornets ARG.
Yes.
But in the Marble Hornets ARG, the proxies turned out not actually being like followers of Slenderman. They were like adversely against Slenderman.
Yeah, I don't fully remember the lore of that.
Alex, the one character who actually like did his bidding, kind of like the Slenderman's bidding, was the only one, but he was never actually a proxy. The proxies were always were given to the Masky and Hoodie characters, and it was just because we didn't ever see, like, we didn't know their true intentions. But like every time you saw them, like and like saw them encounter like Slenderman, they ran from Slenderman. So they actually
were also against
the people that they were still like going against so they were like a third faction in the group in the thing. But the problem is like a lot of people misinterpreted them as being like followers of Slenderman. And so that's where we have like this kind of derision of, or this division of like the idea of like the proxies working for Slenderman or being against Slenderman and everybody else. But yeah, regardless, that is the end of my grammar inquisition. We got there.
It happened.
We got there. It only took 2 hours. Wow.
I think that's a record.
I think this is gonna be one of our longer episodes, guys.
You say that, but
let's see. Yeah, let's see. Mikey, D stands for evil. You're up.
All right. It's just a very nice and short conjunction junction.
Okay. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It was a sunny Saturday, and I had programmed a day to spend with my friends. So I woke up and I prepared fast, wearing first clothes that I had in my hand. So, stealing his knife, I pull him out his eyes, making him shout like a hell, and then I stabbed him at one leg. But with a punch he made me leave his knife. Finn.
So she was like getting like she was playing this hangout with her friends in town. She was getting ready for school, like she was getting ready for it, like getting her clothes on. Then a killer came out of the closet and attacked her. And then she like stabbed at his eyes and stuff like that with his own knife.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That was
summarize the story a lot.
I'm surprised how short that was. How little there were of junctions or its story stuff. Its story material. Huh.
Yeah. Because for those unaware, Mikey does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't. Its ends or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Yes.
For the most part, this one did use better words.
Yeah.
At least for the starts.
That's one thing for it.
Yep.
All right, Gamer, I guess you're up next.
Okay. Now on to the 30 that you missed.
Oh my god.
Let's see. It was a sunny. Actually, I don't know if you got this one.
Yeah, I'll tell you if I did.
It was a sunny Saturday, and I had programmed a day to spell. Did you get that one?
I did not.
Okay, I'm surprised you missed that then. Okay. Probably meaning plan a day instead of programmed a day. But then again, this is in the 2080s, and White is a robot.
So, well, there is that. Also, like programming a day, like she could just be like really into like programming her schedule, like, and like that is a vernacular you do. I've heard used for like planning your day. It's not a common vernacular, but it is a vernacular I've heard used for like plotting out the what you plan on doing for the day.
It just sounds so weird to me.
It does. It also it continues our headcanon that this is set in the 2080s.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat, like that was very early on, and I was already in the headspace of.
Yep, fair.
And the rest of them you actually get.
Oh, okay.
I only had like 4 more because I started taking some. I'm like, you know what? Cultist said that he has been slogging through this, doing all this grammar stuff, so I'm just gonna take it easy. I'm not.
Yeah, I kind of like. I was like, yeah, I was just like, I could stop doing this, or I could just go full hog.
Yeah.
And then tell them like that I'm doing this, so that maybe they won't do it as much either. So like we're not like here for 6 hours. But all right, then I suppose we'll move on to the actual thoughts.
We did it.
Actual thoughts. So these are actual thoughts that did not have grammar issues but were actually like plot things that were just straightforward plot issues that we had.
So you have 2, right?
I have 2 actually. Yeah, you're right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now I am a famous killer known with the name White the Killer. Why? Do you wear white now? Because based on the getup you wore earlier in the story, you don't. Because you chill and kill with Jeff the Killer? I know I'm asking a lot here, but I just want I want a little bit of explanation as to why you're called White the Killer. Why are you called White? Why are you called White?
You explained at the very start. It's not going to explain why she's called White. She's just called White.
It bugged me. It bugged me so much.
Dude, it bugs me too.
Okay.
It's weird. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to call this character White, but I'm going to specifically say that I'm not going to explain why I'm calling them White.
Yeah.
Is her last name White? And also, if her nickname or whatever is White, why would she use that as her code name as a murderer? Everyone's going to know who the hell she is.
Well, I mean, like Eyeless Jack knows who she is. I mean, she's already on the run, so like whatever. Like,
oh, yeah, I guess Jeff's actual name is Jeff.
yeah, yeah, Jeff Woods.
Yeah.
And Jack's last name is what the fuck was it? It was like shit. It's not Jackknife. That's his knife. It was fuck. I had to go.
Oh no.
Jack.
Jackface.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. We both got it at the same time. Yeah, Jackface. Eyeless Jackface. Actually, speaking of Jack, so it's like, when we first get like Eyeless Jack kind of put here, like specifically the letter that she gets in the fridge full of her parents' like organs and stuff, signed by Eyeless Jack, and I was like, wait, I thought this was a Jeff the Killer wiki, not Eyeless Jack wiki. Like that would explain though, like the appearance of Slender Man and all that kind of stuff. But like, because Eyeless Jack does have more of a connection with Slender Man and stuff than even Jeff does. And then we get the very end. Jeff the Killer just shows up. Is like, hey, want to chill and kill? to White the Killer.
Mm.
But again, it just kind of adds on to the whole like this is just a kind of a clusterfuck of different like name drops of other cool, I do in quotes, cool creepypasta characters in this creepypasta's in this Creepypasta Killer's like origin story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's it. That's all my notes. So Mikey, the E stands for evil. Your actual thoughts.
All right. So suddenly, Slender Man. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I don't think anyone did.
I had an inkling when like there was a tall figure outside the window of the museum. I was like, that's probably Slender Man. And then when it was the tall figure was like putting its arm through the window that she just crashed through. It's like, that's probably Slender Man. And then we got the name drop. It's like, yeah, that was Slender Man.
That's probably Slender Man.
It was Slender Man. Yeah, that's probably Slender Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a lot more genre savvy than
Fair, yeah.
Mhm.
I do read these for like as my actual pastime.
they're gonna say I do read these at least once a week. It's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I read more than the ones once a week. Like I am the one that like looks for them for our show sometimes. So
Yeah. So that just, I don't know. And then after the Thunderman drop, then all of a sudden, oh, there's Jeff the Killer. Oh, and they're going after Jane. It's just like, what?
Yep. And then for the more obscure ones, there's Eyeless Jack. That I guess this is how Eyeless Jack became Eyeless Jack. And then Toby. I bet they're talking about Ticket Toby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it also a situation where there's just so many the killer people that you can name any name, and of course there's a killer version of them?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a Steve the Slasher or Steve the Killer. Then again, there's a White the Killer. So,
yeah, the color.
And there's also Maddie. According to the Just the Kittens wiki, there's Maddie the Killer, Max the Killer, Smile.Jeff. Wait, is that Smile Dog versus Jeff the Killer? No, of course not. But yeah, I guess what you're saying though. Like there it could be like there's a lot of killers with just like regular names. So
yeah, and the other, my other actual thought here is when she's fighting with Eyeless Jack, and we get the suddenly he blocked me against the wall. And then at which point he carves a smile into her face and messes with her eyes.
Yeah.
But then a couple sentences later, with a nudge, I dismissed him. Like,
yeah.
It's that easy. Like
Yeah.
a nudge, you know.
Yeah.
Just like, stop it. Oh, okay.
Like technically those are appropriate words, but like for the story, they should have had a little bit more oomph to them. Like they should have used words that give them a little bit more oomph.
Like a shove or a punch in the gut, a knee in the balls.
Yeah. You know what it is? The nudge and then dismiss them is that guy from The Room who just like does the waist wave.
Yeah, the little
As
like
he walks
half-ass wave as he's leaving.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that equivalent is.
A little bit.
Yeah. So it just, to me, it seems really odd, like, because who knows how long it takes him to carve the face and mess with her eyes.
Yeah.
And then it's just a nudge later, and then she's free.
Hey, move. Oh, okay, sorry.
I mean, that's a common thing in this story of victim is held in a position. They stay there of their own free will for an undetermined amount of time until they decide otherwise. Like that happened when White had Jack held down and cutting his eyes out, and he was above her and cutting his eyes out. But regardless, he just stood there and took it and let her like carefully cut out both of his eyes, and then he's like, like his lag.
Yeah.
They're in Lagland. That's where they are.
They're in a virtual reality augmented reality. And he just got dumb shocked.
Yeah,
from, like lag. No, that's what happened when Slenderman showed up. Like Slenderman is actually in the VR, and like him get like Eyeless Jack getting like grabbed by all that black gunk and like taken down. That's him just getting dumb shocked out of the virtual reality.
Yep.
Again, 2080s, man.
Their thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dark time. It's a derp time.
Yeah.
Good. Yep.
That's into my actual thought.
Okay. Then on to Gamer.
That's me. Okay. What do I have? All right. So first couple of sentences. My friends called me white. Sorry, my friends called me white, but I have never known why. In fact, my skin was not white and cadaverous. It was gold and smooth. My eyes were dark. My hair was brown, middle length with a forelock. So there's so much past tense here.
Yeah.
It made me wonder whether it's like what her friends call her now, or if her friends are even alive anymore. This is early on. This is literally me reading the first sentence and commenting.
Yeah.
Or even what she looks like now, because like they called her white. Past tense. Skin was not white, but gold. Past tense. Eyes were dark. Hair was brown. So basically, all this description is great and all, but I'm going to, and like I'm going to roll with it as I continue through the story. But I expect her to change a lot by the end. Like all those things change, and none of them.
And we never get an update on her look aside from like what happens in the story.
Yeah, which is she gets a Glasgow smile and some cuts around her eyes, and her eyes get bloodshot. So her eyes change. The eyes were dark. That part changed, I guess, but it could be dark red for all I know. So that whole description is weird. How it's all past tense.
Yeah.
And yes, this is a recounting of previous events, but she still looks like that. So her eyes like are dark. Her skin is gold, you know?
Unless they should have like given us at the end, like, because she'd been like hanging out with Slender Man and stuff like that. And maybe like her skin was no longer like tanned. It was like it had paled because of like the living conditions of being a proxy.
Yeah.
Like maybe her hair went white or from the madness or just something.
Yeah. Anything.
yeah. Like what my previous comment, just like you gave us nothing as to why this character's name is White, the killer.
Yeah, I'm still confused.
Yeah.
Maybe
and like her outfit again, going for her outfit at the beginning of the story, no white whatsoever. Gray's the closest we get to.
Yeah. God, that's bugging me now. The more we talk, the more bugging me. That's fine.
I just realized if we do make the Gamer in Yellow a killer who kills other killers, you're basically the creepypasta equivalent of Dexter.
Like I have a laboratory and I have an annoying older sister.
No, the TV show Dexter, where he's a killer. He's a serial.
Oh,
there's a game. There's a show called Dexter where he's a serial killer who kills other serial killers.
Serial killerception.
Yeah,
amazing.
He's the serial killer.
He's super serial.
He's the super serial killer. God damn it.
Okay. Anyways,
yes.
We kind of brushed on this, but not really enough. I feel.
Okay.
She kept his eyes, and like, why?
Has them.
She just still has them. Like she cut them out. Why? In that first attack, she was still sane. She was just defending herself and decided to cut his eyes out while he was lagged, and removed his eyes and took them.
Yeah.
Why? Like if she's just trying to defend herself, stab her in the eye, stab him in the eye, get him off, you run away. You know, why would you keep them?
Yeah, I feel like the story could have had in that moment. It could have had like that was like the first strands of her madness. The fact that she kept, like, if they explained that in there, like why she kept them, but
because I get it. At the end, it's like you want to have his eyes as earrings on her, whatever. But have it, as you said, have it explained. Like she snapped at that point. You know, like have the first attack happen. She doesn't take his eyes, but then she comes after him, and she's freaking out at that point. This guy's trying to kill her. He's coming after her. He already did it once. He's going to do it again. I gotta stop him. You know. Maybe
he has like after that first attack, he has his eyes, and that's why he's so angry at her and like why he's going after her. Like, and when they meet back up in her kitchen, he like holds out his eyes like in the palm of his hands, like, look what you took from me. Like, this is why I killed your parents and blah blah blah. Like, and then she's like, yoink. It's like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Like that way, like that's why
his eyes were on the ground, but she ran away, but he picked up his eyes. Yeah, I see.
and then like held on to them, and then like he lost them in the second attack when she was a little bit more deranged and crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both are better options to what we have.
Yeah.
And actually, everything else I talked about, so I think we're good.
Okay. So on to final thoughts. Mercifully. This was a bit painful. Nearly every sentence needed to be fixed as a result of what seems to be that this was translated from a non-English language. That's my going theory. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but like that's really what it seemed like to me based on like the context clues that we had here and what I found out when I googled using dashes for dialogue and such. And again, like the fact that it is translated from from a non-English language, like, and posted on here, that's okay. Like that idea of like translating a story and putting it onto so an English reader can read it. That's cool. That's awesome. But it really should have gone through several rounds of editing to make it more readable for an English audience.
Yeah, for example, the Kawabana website, I believe it's called.
Yep, Kawabana. Yep.
Yeah, where they take all Japanese ones and translate it over so we can read them.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, we've seen it, like it's happened before. Like if this was like a case like the some of the when we tried looking at the for Brazilian creepypastas, and we found the Brazilian creepypasta wiki or like a creepypasta website, we just had the Google Translate like go through the stories. That's also fine because like that's how we were able to do it. Like they weren't like that. Those stories weren't translated for English readers. Like we translated them ourselves. So like that's kind of that onus is on us. For this though, it was specifically like translated to English and or at least seemingly translated to English and posted on an English website. Ergo, there should have been some rounds of editing to fix it up like that. Like we've like the example of Kawabana and stuff like that. If, or at least like if you're not an English speaker directly, like, and you're the writer of this, see if you can find somebody who would like be able to clean it up for you, who does speak the language.
I feel like you can even just run it through Microsoft Word, like spell check, and the spell check would get grammar issues, like not just spelling, but like composition and everything. It would get that as well. Yeah.
Hell, Google Docs does that. Like, sometimes I do find like I do notice things through Google Docs because like the squiggly lines there, and it's like it's picking up a word that's not accurate, and like so like that's how I find out some of those things. But also it does like for grammar as well. So like grammar and spelling. And those programs are getting better and better with each passing month or year. So yeah, really my takeaway from the story was that it was a slog because it just seems to have been basically translated and then dropped down onto the wiki. And all that aside, the story is all right. If a bit flimsy as an origin story for a new killer, it just feels like a crossover fanfic, which there's nothing wrong with that. I usually like those premises, like that idea. But I think I was so bogged down by the issues of trying to read it and like understand it that it left a bad taste in my mouth. So because of that, I won't recommend it. It definitely needs to be cleaned up and edited a little bit more before I would consider giving it even a partial recommendation.
You say there's like a little bit of like dirt in its hair.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bit more than a little bit of dirt. There's like her entire head is just caked in mud and blood.
Fair.
But that's my recommendation. I'm not recommending. So Mikey, these stands for evil.
Yeah. So
we're done. Sorry.
Who said yeah? So that's yes. A recommendation. Moving
on. To sort of reiterate, but in a different way, the caveman speak became too much for me at one point, because as I was doing the grammar inquisition stuff, I just stopped at one point because like, no, it just Cultist is going to get the rest of these. It's fine.
I love how you guys play so much.
Person would stop at this point, so we'll just stop.
Yeah, we all know Cultist is going to go the extra mile because of the show. be a crazed asshole about this.
I think that's my job.
I didn't see you do it today.
No, you said you were going to do it, so why should I?
Oh, that's fair. But yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much that we talked about, like that suddenly it ties into Jeff the Killer and has a bunch of creepypasta entities at once. Just to me doesn't help it because it should be its own contained thing.
Yeah.
It didn't even really need Slenderman. It could have just been White the Killer with Eyeless Jack.
Yeah, this could have just been like, yeah. Sorry.
So the end is doing too much and then at once and not giving us a real sort of ending to the story. Not that they described much of what was going on in the story, just, oh, all of a sudden we're in a museum and the lights turn off because the museum people didn't come and check everything.
Make sure everyone was gone.
Yeah. But like it would have been better if like I hid while the museum person walked past type thing. Like simple stuff like that makes it easier to read and go, oh, okay, we're not just in Derpland.
Yeah, there could have been a whole tense scene of White hiding somewhere, but she could still see Jack hiding as well, like behind the area where the murder happened, and they're both hiding from the security guard, like as they're actually. Why would she hide though? She'd be asking the security guard.
Yeah, or maybe she goes to try and get one of the people, and then Eyeless Jack sneaks up from behind the guard and kills him.
Yeah, or Eyeless Jack has White like in a chokehold, like holding a knife against her throat or whatever, like telling her to be quiet as the guard's like walking right past them.
Yeah,
but he didn't actually actively kill her because that would have made the guard aware. Then, like as soon as the guard passed, she like gets out of it somehow.
Yeah, maybe she like headbutts him or something like that, and like gets out of the way, gets out of the hold that way, like disorients him or something. Yeah, there were ways the story could have been better. It's just it didn't go that way.
Yeah, and there's ways that a big chunk of this story could have been elaborated on because I mean it is a short story.
Yeah. The fight with Jeff the Killer at the end could have been longer, like Gamer brought up.
It was really sparring. It wasn't a fight. I don't think they were trying to hurt each other. They were just doing the like.
They were testing each other out.
Yeah.
They were just flirting.
Basically.
Flirt fighting, basically.
Flirt. I was going to combine flirting and fighting, and it's like flirting, fighting.
Nailed it.
Flirting.
Flighting. They're just flighting.
Yeah, they're flighting. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so overall, I'm still not going to recommend this.
Okay. And Gamer.
Yeah, I'm probably going to mirror you guys for the most part. Although for me, the reading of it wasn't hard to read at all, honestly, because I didn't have to do grammar that much. For you, Cultist, stopping on every sentence, I can understand how this would be a slog. But when you just kind of go fuck it and just read it, it's a lot smoother, and you can get through it in a day.
Yeah.
So, like, hats off to you for taking a bullet for the team here.
Yeah.
But even when you do that and you don't look at all the glaring typos or translation errors or what have you, the story's still kind of it's not really for me. It's has so many characters in it, things spread out everywhere. There's no focus. Like the focus should be White and Jack. But then there's more, and then there's more, and then there's more. Because there was focus at the start, and then all of a sudden it just got less and less focused the more characters it added in. And just like, Slenderman out of nowhere, Jeff the Killer's out of nowhere. at least he's here because it's on Just the Kittens. But yeah, it's too spread out and weird. It kind of feels like the story was made as a. Hang on. First off, okay, so she's 14. First off,
Yeah.
So she's like way younger than Jack too. So it's basically a story to give him a little sister, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kind of the way it feels. The quote unquote twist about this being like all to do with Slender Man in a way was I didn't expect it, but I don't know
it
if
was
really
odd.
helped,
Yeah.
you know?
Like I think the Slender Man being there, like because this was an origin for an OC killer, White the Killer, but it was also another origin story for how Eyeless Jack lost his eye.
Yeah.
And since Eyeless Jack is connected to Slenderman, in I can't remember how he's connected to the Slender Man. I just remember he was a proxy, but that might be like I might be missing. I might be misremembering his origins and such.
Based on what you said, proxies don't work for Slender Man.
Well, the original version of proxies don't, but like the creepypasta, like the teen serial killer ones do.
Yeah.
The masked figures like that roam around with Slenderman.
Man, kind of idiot wears a mask and a hood, right?
I know, it's weird.
Saying the guy whose character is a dude with a mask and a.
He's just like, I am one of those killers.
No, my real name is Gamer the Killer.
Oh my god!
I can't believe we've gone like this deep into this many Jeffuaries, and like finally, like I can look at myself and be like,
So wait, is it the killer is it the killer in yellow or like homicidal yellow? or Gamer the Killer, or
you don't get to know my real name. I could tell you my real name, but then I'd have to kill you.
Ah, yes.
Because my name, much like who I'm a proxy of, is a name that should not be said.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you did say it. So you will have to die, just not right now.
That's fine. I got life insurance.
Yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, all in all, as I said, the story's like, it's too spread out. It needs way more focus. There's a lot of potential for different scenes to be creepier and more impactful than what they are. So there's a lot of things that could be done with it. But even if you did all those things, the fact that there's just so many characters that are all fleshed out characters in their own stories, it's too much. So
Yeah.
even in an ideal world, when the grammar's all fixed and there's like tense scenes put in and there's like a slow build to her insanity and all that, it's still too much. So even in that situation, I'd give it a partial, but with what it is, I can't recommend it. It would need a lot more editing and fleshing out of different scenes, and might have to be twice as long, honestly. Just because of the amount of characters. Like Jeff just shows up and like, oh hi, I'm here.
Yeah, she just bumps into him while running through the woods trying to escape the Slender Man. Yeah.
Yeah. And Slender Man himself, he just shows up, but he's not utilized.
Yeah.
Because there's that one bit where it's like, how did he get back and kill my parents so fast? I guess it's assumed Slender Man did it, or Slender Man's magic teleported him there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Eyeless Jack from the future.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of confusing stuff. So all in all, I can't really recommend it, but in an ideal world, maybe partial.
Sounds about right, honestly. Like because even I would be willing to give it a partial if it was given a proper round of like thorough editing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess that's this week's episode. So yeah, no recommendations for this one. Though if it was edited properly, maybe there's a chance, a glimmer. But that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, if you're still here, God bless.
Yeah, God bless.
Elder gods bless. But, if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, you can leave us a comment in the comment section below, or if it gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're all on Twitter, so you can send us messages there. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
That's gonna be though.
And I'm at Review Cultist. If you'd like to send us emails, you can send them to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Or you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our backers that are helping support the show, thank you immensely because you're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, wherever you are, you crazy, crazy VPN code you. Thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. Seriously, those of you who've lasted this long in this episode and are still listening, legitimately, God bless you.
That's a lot of grammar to get through, but you did it.
God. And if you didn't write these stories and post them online and have people read them and comment, or put them on their show for a podcast about reading and dissecting creepypastas, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. Legitimately, it's been like 2.5 hours. And like, this has basically been an editing session for your story. So
yeah, pretty much.
Take with it what you will. But again, like, thank you for having the courage to write a story and post it online, regardless of where you are, and have people look at it. Like, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts. So thank you, all the same. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis for the end of Jeffuary 2023. Sleep well.
And go to sleep.